Oh yeah, I wanted to say, um, I talked about 6 adults to raise a child, and I talked about, let's say, that Filipino young couple, and well, I don't think, let's say, the 6 adults should be Filipinos and raising that Filipino child, and it's because there's many cultures of the world, if not all, that are hazardous to the health of their own children. So that's definitely one. I mean, it's not the only one, but still mixing and matching the adults to raise a child and doing it in a particular way that adds variety, but also adds debate among the adults doing their due diligence for doing the research to do a good job and to role model it. That would be you can't just say, I read this somewhere. You got to be able to role model these skills to apply this strategy in raising the child. And you might think, hey, you're racist, and it has nothing to do with racism. It's culturalism. And that's one of my fields of expertise. And I have the data to back it up. I have a lot of data that shows how Filipino parents raising Filipino children is hazardous to the health of children. And I have a lot of data from South Korea, so I can say that. I have a lot of data from Uganda, so I can say that. I have a lot of data from Canada, so I can say that. And it's all at different levels of hazardous to their own children based on the cultural patterns of dominance. So definitely adding variety to the three couples perhaps, but 6 adults per child raising them. Now, there's a lot of things that my theory can predict. For example, I'm watching Ted Lasso. Okay, I'm almost at the end of season 2, and sexuality is a very, I think, promiscuous. I think is the term I'm looking for. I wanted to look it up before to make sure I was using the English language properly, and I'll write it in the definition in the description of this video. And it's because it's important to use language efficiently. But I mean, for example, if parents want to raise their children using the English language, and for that child to learn to use the English language efficiently, I think the UK is not a good place. And none of the countries where English dominates is. And now I'm not saying this with certainty because of a Ted Lasso show, but there's other data, but there's mostly my theory predicts this is a global phenomenon that most cultures of the world, if not all, are losing their language and the ability to use language efficiently, which they never did. But it isn't going forward to improve, it's going backwards to get worse. So, like this is an example. And if you don't know how to communicate among each other as social creatures in your cultures using your own language, yeah, it's not going to get better for the health of your kids. It's going to get worse, right? What's the name of that prince there in the monarchy where, sexuality is a big part of that person's life? And you listen to the Spice Girls. The Spice Girls sang about that a lot. I don't know how they live their lives. And again, I can't go by just the show Ted Lasso, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of unhealthy sexual behaviors and language use and behaviors of, that show a lack of emotional intelligence in that show. And if people find it funny, then it kind of shows that's the norm, or that's a slight exaggeration of the norm, and we're really laughing at ourselves, and that therefore we don't get outraged like we didn't with Seinfeld and we didn't with Big Bang Theory, where hey, we think it's okay or funny to act like this, which doesn't meet human standards. And when it comes to South Korea or Canada, where it is hazardous to raise their kids, it's at a certain level that is not human standards. But if you look at Filipino and Ugandan, yeah, it can't even be rated on a scale of failing by human standards. It's even below that. And if you look at how these cultures have spread around the world, and they have not questioned themselves, much less allowed others to to lift up a mirror to them and say, is this okay for your kids? Like when I invited, and the kids also invited the parents to come to life skills lessons for events that we did, and none of them ever came, ever. I tell you, that's a big red flag for Filipinos right there. So this is who you are as a species, and I wanted to do this vlog as I'm waking up this morning. It's like not even 6:30 yet, because, well, I think every child matters, and I'm pretty outraged every time I see somebody wearing a shirt that says that, or a sign somewhere that says that, or a philosophy that says that, because as an uncompromised social scientist, I can tell you for certain that none of the people and cultures I've met that demonstrate every child matters as words they use and claim to stand by do not have congruent behaviors that show this. So again, my theory predicts this, that you are going to work really, really hard as a species during your current crash to sell an image, but not to become who you claim to be.